BCA 101, not 100. This was Friday, and I believe it's day 17, 10, 7, 16. We talked about the outline and where you are to define items, and we reviewed a bunch of things. We talked about cloud storage, why not people use cloud storage. First of all, cost is not a big factor, but security is. I mean, there's a lot of available storage space for free, so depending on what you're using it for, we talked about that. We talked about backup a little bit, talked about computer code, software to run anything on your device, browser, issues with the LMS, and which browser, and we ran through some items dealing with that. You know, they design browsers, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. We talked about open source, non-proprietary, and proprietary. Just reviewing some key things that are important to understand. And I gave a little example here. We went online and looked at the usage of phones nowadays in terms of accessing the internet. I talked about a little bit about security and the shaming. Couple things here. You should really understand the difference if it's a data file holding data or if it's a file holding software. We'll look at that more as we go along. A student gave a really good site in terms of looking at, or it looked like a pretty good site in terms of looking at content and trying to figure out what content is good and what content maybe is opinion and content that's maybe not good. It's just there to draw you towards advertisement. Clickbait. Talk about that later on. All right. So I did a review. We talked about some things. We looked at some spreadsheet items, and we did a lot of work with the group spreadsheet. We talked about the article on multitasking, the students trying to do too many things at once, and we reviewed that word processing document briefly and talked about some of the issues with trying to multitask. I talked with browsers. IE is by Microsoft, Chrome is by Google, Firefox. These all try to communicate with Canvas, so if something doesn't work with Canvas, you might try another browser. We've had some issues with Edge and IE in Windows 10. And there are other browsers too, so somebody that's a little savvy with IT, if something doesn't work in one browser, they might try another browser or check for updates. We talked about learning. The way we learn in this class might be a little different, so we talked about change, grit, long-term, being able to accept failure, and growth mindset. We talked about that. And then most recently, drive by Daniel Pink. Autonomy, having purpose, and mastery over what you do. We'll talk a little more about those items as we move along. We also talked about it's good to be task-driven in the sense of getting your things done, but some people are so focused on just getting them done, learning is not a priority. How do you manage it? This is what's going to have value to you down the road. And we talked a little bit about technology and creating. Are we more creative or less creative with technology? I think that could go both directions, depending on how people view it. We also talked about the LMS, the fact that it lays everything out for you. We talked a little bit about that being really good, or how maybe that could be bad. As we use technology to take care of everything, where do we become too dependent on it? And that could be any kind of technology. So we are working towards finishing up Unit 3 and moving on to Unit 4. Okay? We need to be finishing up outline by midterm all the way through Unit 4. And the other thing we are finishing up right now are spreadsheets. 3 areas there. We have group work we're doing in class, if you're face-to-face. We have the assignment, which should be completed. And then we have the project, which students are working on, that's due at the end of the 7th week. Okay? Alright. And then we'll finish up the units in the midterm. Midterm will be available after Wednesday. If a students want to take it face-to-face in class with me, otherwise they'll take it Friday during the regular class time. Online students, the midterm will be available Monday, and you'll need to have it done Friday with a proctor. All right, that's it.